From my earliest memories, the contrast between how my parents treated me and my younger sister Katie was stark and painful. My name is Samantha, and this is the story of how my own family betrayed me and how I rose above it. Katie was born just a year after me, and from the moment she arrived, it was clear she would be the golden child. Our parents, Mark and Sophia Carter, showered her with attention while I lingered in the shadows. Every milestone, every achievement, every moment seemed to revolve around Katie. I vividly remember my 10th birthday. While Katie had a lavish party just months earlier, complete with bouncy castles and professional entertainers, my celebration consisted of a simple cake after dinner. "We're a bit tight on money this month, Samantha," Mom explained, yet the following week, they managed to buy Katie a brand new iPad. The disparity wasn't just in material things. At dinner, when Katie spoke, our parents hung on her every word. When I tried to share something about my day, Dad would cut me off with a distracted, "That's nice, honey," without even looking up from his phone. The weight of their indifference was crushing. But the most frustrating part was the food situation. Katie had a severe peanut allergy, and instead of managing her diet separately, my parents banned peanuts from the house entirely. I loved peanut butter sandwiches, they were my favorite, but even at school, I wasn't allowed to bring them. "It's not fair," I told my grandmother Rose one afternoon as we baked cookies together in her warm kitchen. "Why do I have to eat everything Katie eats? I don't have allergies." Grandma Rose was my sanctuary, the one person who truly saw me. Her kitchen was my refuge, a place where I could speak freely without fear of being dismissed. "Your parents think they're doing what's best," she said, her wise eyes softening. "But they're not seeing how it's affecting you." As we measured flour into a bowl, I vented about the latest injustice. Mom bought Katie new dance shoes yesterday because she might want to take lessons. But when I asked to join the science club, she said it was too expensive. Grandma Rose's face hardened. "I've tried talking to your mother about this," she said with a sigh. "Just last week, I told her she needs to treat you and Katie equally. But Sophia," she trailed off, shaking her head. "She claims Katie is more talented, more outgoing. She says you're too introverted, that it's harder to connect with you." Her words stung, but they didn't surprise me. I'd overheard similar conversations before, my parents discussing how Katie was special, the daughter with all the potential. Meanwhile, I was just there, the quiet one, the less talented one, the one they had to accommodate but never really saw. While Katie's schedule was packed with dance classes, piano lessons, and art workshops, I spent my afternoons alone in my room, watching life pass me by through the window. "Katie has such natural talent," Mom would gush at dinner. "Her dance instructor says she could go professional someday." Dad would beam with pride while I quietly pushed food around my plate, invisible as always. But everything changed when I turned 12. One Saturday morning, Grandma Rose showed up at our door, her eyes twinkling with excitement. "Get your coat, Samantha," she said. "I've enrolled you in the Advanced Young Scientist program at the community center." That program changed my life. For the first time, I was immersed in a world of experiments, equations, and endless possibilities. Our instructor, Dr. Chen, didn't see a quiet introvert. He saw a curious mind hungry for knowledge. When I solved a complex algebra problem during the first week, he high-fived me in front of the whole class. By the time I was 14, I wasn't just excelling in science and math. I was standing at podiums, delivering arguments about climate change and social justice. People listened when I spoke. The shy girl who used to hide in her room was gone, replaced by someone confident with opinions and the courage to express them. Samantha's presentation on renewable energy was outstanding, my debate coach told my parents at a school meeting. "She has a real future in scientific research if she wants it." I'll never forget Katie's face that day, the way her smile tightened, her eyes narrowing. She wasn't used to sharing the spotlight, and my growing popularity clearly bothered her. Soon, people started stopping by my locker between classes. I was elected to the student council. For the first time in my life, I have friends who valued my opinions and invited me to study groups and weekend hangouts. I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. That's when Katie started her whisper campaign. "Mom, Dad," I overheard her one evening, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I saw Samantha behind the gym today. She was kissing Tommy Martinez, and last week, it was Jake from her debate team." I burst into the kitchen, my face hot with anger. "That's a lie. I've never." Samantha, Katie wouldn't make this up, Mom interrupted, her voice sharp. She's worried about you. These boys, these late-night study sessions, it's not appropriate, Dad added. No more going out after 6, and we'll be monitoring your phone calls from now on. It's for your own good. What about my debate team meetings, my science club? I protested. You can participate in school activities, Mom said curtly. But afterward, you come straight home. No exceptions. I looked at Katie, who was smirking behind her hand. She'd won again, and we both knew it. My newfound freedom, my hard-earned place in the world, was being stripped away, all because of her lies. As we grew older, Katie's antagonism only grew worse. It wasn't enough for her to control my social life through our parents. Katie's campaign against me escalated, targeting not just my spirit but my belongings and the few friendships I'd managed to maintain despite the restrictions. One morning, I discovered my meticulously crafted science project drenched in water. Weeks of calculations were now smeared into illegible chaos. Another time, my favorite sweater, a cherished birthday gift from Grandma Rose, turned up with bleach stains, the damage irreparable. But the worst was what she did to my friendship with Rachel. Rachel and I had been close since middle school, bonding over our love of biology and bad reality TV. She was one of the few friends who stood by me through Katie's previous schemes. But even Rachel had her breaking point. How could you? Rachel confronted me one day at my locker, her voice shaking with anger, her eyes brimming with tears. Katie told me everything. How you write about Matt in your diary and how you're planning to steal him from me. Rachel, that's insane. I protested, stunned. I don't even have a diary. I would never. But Rachel was already walking away, her faith in me shattered. I stood frozen in the hallway, feeling the weight of another piece of my life crumbling away. That evening I stormed into Katie's room, trembling with rage. Why are you doing this? I demanded. Why do you have to destroy everything good in my life? Katie leaned back in her chair, completely unfazed. You're paranoid, Samantha, she said coolly. Maybe if you stopped obsessing over me and making up stories, you'd have more friends. I wanted to scream. Somehow, she always twisted things, painting me as the unhinged one. And our parents? They never questioned her stories. Then came Katie's 15th birthday. Mom spent days preparing for it, determined to make everything perfect. The house was decked out with pink and gold balloons, and relatives filled every corner of the living room. The cake was Mom's masterpiece. 3 tiers of vanilla buttercream, Katie's favorite. When the time came, everyone gathered around, singing happy birthday. Katie's smile lit up the room as she blew out the candles to enthusiastic applause. But moments later, her expression changed. Her hand went to her throat, her eyes wide with panic. Mom recognized the signs immediately. She's having a reaction, she cried. EpiPen, Dad shouted, already sprinting for the emergency kit. Mom held Katie's hand while Dad administered the injection. Gradually, her breathing steadied, but the festive atmosphere had evaporated. Concerned relatives murmured in clusters as my parents tried to piece together what had gone wrong. How did peanuts get in the cake? Mom kept asking, frantically checking and rechecking her recipe. I was so careful. That's when Katie spoke, her voice raspy but clear. I saw Samantha in the kitchen earlier, she said, her gaze locking on mine. She was doing something with the cake. What? No, I blurted out. I wasn't even near the cake. But Katie pressed on, her tone laced with quiet conviction. Check her purse, she whispered. The blue one by the door. Dad didn't hesitate. He grabbed my purse before I could react. From the main pocket, he pulled out a small jar of peanut butter, holding it up for everyone to see. She could have died, Dad thundered, his voice reverberating through the room. What were you thinking, Samantha? I stood there, trembling, as accusations flew from all directions. The jar of peanut butter in Dad's hand might as well have been a smoking gun. I didn't do it, I repeated, my voice growing smaller with each plea. Please, you have to believe me. Katie sat on the couch, the oxygen mask still resting near her face. But as our eyes met, I caught it, the faintest upturn of her lips. She was enjoying this, enjoying watching my world crumble. Relatives shifted uncomfortably, whispering among themselves. Aunt Jane pulled her daughter closer, as if I might try to poison her next. Uncle Bob avoided my gaze entirely. The only person who moved toward me was Grandma Rose. Now wait just a minute, Grandma's voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. Everyone needs to calm down and think about this rationally. Did anyone see Samantha put the peanut butter in the cake? Her words hung in the air like a lifeline, but Dad's grip on the jar tightened. Everything is already clear, he said firmly. Go to your room, Samantha. We'll deal with this later, Dad said, his voice cutting through my protests. The next few days were a living nightmare. At home, my parents treated me like I didn't exist. They left the room whenever I entered, locked away all the food, and whispered behind closed doors. At school, rumors spread faster than wildfire. People avoided me in the hallways as if my supposed crime was contagious. By the third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Katie alone in her room, scrolling through her phone, as calm and smug as ever. You need to tell them the truth, I demanded, shutting the door behind me. This has gone far enough. Katie looked up, her expression cool. Then she smiled, a smile so cold it made my blood run cold. You know what's funny? She said, setting her phone down with deliberate care. I've been planning this for months, waiting for the perfect moment. The birthday party was just ideal. Something snapped inside me. Years of anger, frustration, and hurt exploded in an instant. I lunged at her, grabbing her shoulders. We crashed to the floor, knocking over her bedside lamp. The noise brought our parents running. They found us wrestling on the ground, both of us shouting. She confessed. I yelled as Dad pulled me off Katie. She just told me she planned the whole thing. She planted the peanut butter in my purse. Stop lying. Katie shrieked, tears streaming down her face as she clutched her arm. She's crazy. She attacked me. That's enough, Mom said, her voice ice cold. Pack your things, Samantha. We can't have you in this house anymore. What? No, please. I begged, my voice cracking. You're dangerous, Dad declared, his face stummy. Either your grandmother picks you up by morning, or we're calling social services. I fell to my knees, sobbing, pleading for them to listen, but their faces didn't waver. Katie stood behind them, her crocodile tears drying quickly, replaced by a triumphant smirk. Grandma Rose arrived at dawn, her old station wagon idling in the driveway. As I loaded my hastily packed bags into the car, she turned to my parents one last time. What you're doing is despicable, she said, her voice trembling with anger. You're choosing to believe a lie over your own daughter. Someday you'll realize what you've done, and it'll be too late. They didn't respond. They just stood in the doorway, Katie between them, watching as Grandma drove me away from the only home I'd ever known. Living with Grandma Rose was like finally being able to breathe after years of suffocation. Within a month, she had legally adopted me, handled all the paperwork for my transfer to Riverside High School, and converted her sewing room into my bedroom. At Riverside, I was a blank slate. No one knew about the birthday party or Katie's lies. I was just the new girl with good grades and a quiet smile. Slowly, I began making friends again, real friends who weren't poisoned by Katie's whispers. Freed from the constant drama and criticism, I flourished. My SAT scores were nearly perfect. I graduated as valedictorian, delivering a speech on resilience and the power of second chances. My parents didn't attend the ceremony. I'd sent them an invitation, more out of formality than hope, but received no response. It hurt, but less than I expected. Grandma Rose's proud tears as I accepted my diploma meant more than their absence ever could. I was accepted into several prestigious dental programs, but the tuition fees were daunting. Before I could even mention student loans, Grandma Rose pulled out a folder. I've been saving for this since you were 12, she said, showing me a college fund she quietly built over the years. I always knew you were meant for great things. Those 4 years of dental school were grueling but rewarding. I lived in a tiny apartment near campus, worked part-time at a cafe, and studied until my eyes burned. Through it all, Grandma Rose was my rock, listening to my excited phone calls about successful procedures and never doubting my chosen path. I had no contact with my parents or Katie during those years. Occasionally, I'd see updates about them on social media. Katie's retail job, Mom's garden club awards, Dad's bowling league victories. I scrolled past quickly, refusing to let their lives intersect with mine. Finally, after years of hard work, I held my dental license in my hands. My first job offer came from Brighton Dental Associates, one of the most respected private practices in the city. I posted a photo of my diploma and license on Facebook, captioned simply, Dr. Samantha Carter, DDS. Dreams do come true. The response was overwhelming. Old school friends, distant relatives, even my third-grade teacher left congratulatory comments. Aunt Jane, who had pulled her daughter away from me at Katie's birthday party, wrote, "We're all so proud of you, Samantha." Uncle Bob commented, "Incredible achievement, kiddo." Looking at those messages, I realized something profound. I'd done more than survive my family's betrayal. I transformed it into fuel for my success. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, my phone rang. The number on the screen was familiar, though I hadn't seen it in years. My heart raced as I debated whether to answer. Finally, I swiped to accept the call. "Hello," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Samantha, sweetie," my mom said, her tone syrupy sweet, the way she used to speak when trying to charm Katie's teachers into giving deadline extensions. "We saw your announcement about becoming a dentist. We're so proud of you." I stayed silent, letting her fill the awkward void. "We've been thinking about you," she continued, her voice dripping with false warmth. "Your father and I would love to have you over for dinner. Just to catch up as a family." Every instinct screamed at me to say no, but a stubborn part of me, a piece still desperate for their approval, answered for me. "What time?" The next evening, I parked my new Mercedes in front of my childhood home. The house looked smaller than I remembered, the paint peeling around the windows. I had dressed carefully, a designer blouse, tailored pants, and the pearl earrings Grandma Rose gave me for graduation. It wasn't just clothing, it was armor. Mom opened the door before I could knock. "Samantha." She moved as if to hug me, then hesitated, pulling back awkwardly. Come in. You look so professional." Dad stood in the living room, fidgeting. "Hey, kiddo," he said, his voice uncertain. He looked older than I expected, his hair completely gray now, new lines etched around his eyes. "Is Katie joining us?" I asked, noting the table was set for 3. "Oh no, she's busy tonight," Mom replied quickly. "I made pot roast, your favorite." What followed was a strained dinner of forced smiles and shallow questions. They asked about dental school, my practice, and my life now. I answered politely but briefly, giving them no openings for deeper conversation. "So," Dad finally said, pushing his potatoes around his plate, "dentistry must be lucrative." There it was. I took a sip of water. "I do all right." "She drives a Mercedes, Mark," Mom said as if I weren't sitting right there. "And you mentioned an apartment." "Yes," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "I bought a place downtown." "With a mortgage, of course." They exchanged a glance. Mom set down her fork, her sigh overly rehearsed. "Samantha, we've been having some difficulties," she began. "Your father, well, the company downsized last month, and my arthritis makes it harder to keep up at the salon." "That must be tough," I said, my expression unreadable. "We were wondering." Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "Maybe you could help us out." I raised an eyebrow. "Have you asked Katie for help?" Mom's face fell. "Katie's struggling too. Retail doesn't pay much, and she's barely getting by as it is." I placed my napkin on the table and stood. "I'm sorry to hear about your situation, but I won't be able to help." As I walked to my car, their voices followed me, pleading and angry. I didn't look back. The next day, during my lunch break, I received a text from Mom. "Samantha, we need $20,000. Your father and I are about to lose the house. As our daughter, you have an obligation to help us." I stared at my phone, a strange calm settling over me. Finally, an opportunity. "I'll give you the money," I typed back, "on one condition. Publicly admit on social media that I never put peanuts in Katie's birthday cake. Admit that you threw me out of the house because of her lies. Tell everyone the truth." The typing bubble appeared and disappeared several times before her response came through. "We can't do that. It would destroy our family's reputation. People would judge us. Surely you understand." I laughed bitterly. "Then you understand why I won't be giving you any money. Surely you understand." Her reply was immediate. "After everything we've done for you." I turned off my phone. 2 hours later, Katie called. Something made me hit record before answering. "Hello, Katie. You heartless asterisk, she snarled. "Mom's crying because of you. They're about to lose everything, and you're playing games." "I'm not playing games," I said calmly. "I'm asking for the truth." "Truth? Ha," she sneered. That's never going to happen, sis. You know why? Because it would hurt me, and they'll never do anything to hurt their precious Katie. Her voice turned mocking, sing-song. They've always loved me more, even after I told them about the peanut butter. My heart stopped. What do you mean? Oh, didn't you know? She said, her tone dripping with glee. A few months after you left, I told them I planted that jar in your purse. They didn't even care. Dad said it was probably for the best you were gone anyway. I gripped the phone tightly. You admitted it to them. Of course. I was so proud of my plan I had to tell someone. And guess what? They didn't care. They'll never admit it publicly because it would make me look bad. So forget about your little confession demand. The line went dead, but the recording was saved. That evening, I posted on Facebook, no dramatics, no accusations, just the truth. Many of you remember the incident at my sister's 15th birthday party, the day my parents kicked me out for allegedly trying to harm her with peanuts. For years, I carried the weight of that false accusation. Today, I'm sharing my story not out of vengeance, but because the truth deserves to be heard. I detailed everything: Katie's escalating lies, my parents' blind devotion to her, their recent demands for money. Finally, I attached the audio recording of Katie's confession. The response was immediate. Apologies poured in from relatives, old friends, and even acquaintances who had distanced themselves. Aunt Jane wrote a heartfelt apology. Uncle Bob called me in tears. As for my parents and Katie, their messages shifted from outrage to threats to silence. I replied to them all with the same message: all communications are being recorded. My lawyer has copies. Any further harassment will be dealt with legally. They must have realized I wasn't the powerless teenage girl they once threw away. The call stopped. That night, Grandma Rose came over with a bottle of champagne. To the truth, she said, pouring us each a glass. And to you, my brave girl. I couldn't have done any of this without you, I told her, fighting back tears. You were the only one who believed in me. She squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with pride. I never doubted you, not for a second. And look at you now, strong, successful, free. She was right. Some people would rather live with their lies and face the truth, but that was their burden to bear, not mine. These days, I focus on my practice, my friends, and my relationship with Grandma Rose, the only parent I've ever truly had. The past doesn't haunt me anymore. The truth has set me free.